What's going on, everybody? We are live. I am Tyrone E. Wilson, the CEO and founder of Cover 6 Solutions. Welcome to the Cover 6 Community live or virtual meetup. We're going to be doing this a lot this month, every Wednesday this month. We're trying something new. Unfortunately, we had to reschedule the last meetup, but we ended up doing it yesterday. So Home Lab Setup Part 3 is all good to go. And if you haven't noticed, we are essentially running through our Intro to Cyber course content. So you could either go to the website and take the course, or you can follow along with me, and every week we'll have a new topic. Tonight's topic is active and scanning enumeration. And it's going to be fun. We have a few targets for you all to practice your scanning and enumeration on, and it should be good. So thank you all for being here. I did put some notes out last night about the meetup. Aside from trying to host a meetup every Wednesday this month, keep in mind that I think this month is Men's Mental Health Month. So if you want to check that out, I do have a personal YouTube channel at Tyrone Wilson, or you could just do a search for Tyrone and MMHJ. It stands for My Mental Health Journey. And you'll see that I have quite a bit of content on mental health. So if that's your thing, it's also my thing as well. And even on the Cover 6 YouTube channel, there's a video about burning out in cybersecurity. You know, I've been in the industry 30 years now. I'm a virtual CISO now, and I've been running Cover 6 since 2012. And, you know, sometimes things get to you, and it's okay, right? It's okay. That's my mental health note for today. It's okay that things affect you, and it's okay to not be okay. So how are we feeling? If you're comfortable, let me know where in the world you are tuning in from. You'll see that right there is a QR code for the Cover 6 community. That is our meetup group. And it's a really great way to keep up with what we are doing. Or you could just subscribe to the YouTube channel and get the notifications. You'll see it that way. Down here, you'll see a link to our Discord channel. You can also join us on Discord. We have quite a few rooms in there and study groups and such. Fredericksburg, I see you. And also in the comments, we put a link to the Discord channel. All right, so tonight, there's quite a few tools that you can use. In the description, you'll see a link for the student handout. There's going to be quite a few student handouts. I'm kind of adding them to the folder right now, just making sure everything stays up to date. We do use I see you, Spiff Teddy. What I try to do is I try to wait until after the meetup to post the student handout. And that's to ensure that everything that I talked about in the meetup is updated in the student handout. That way you have the freshest material. But if you look in that folder, you should start to see it populate very shortly. So if not, we're not going too fast. We're going to focus on two main tools tonight. That's going to be Nmap. Nmap you can get from nmap.org/download. It's a push-through install for your Mac, Windows, what have you. And it's free. Nmap is a network mapper. It's a scanning tool that allows you to find hosts, ports, services, and even vulnerabilities using the Nmap scripting engine. The reason why the active scanning and enumeration is so important is because whether you're an attacker or a defender, the first few steps of the attack methodology are the same. Find all the hosts, find all the ports, find all the services, find all the vulnerabilities. When it comes to identifying the vulnerabilities, that's when you hit the fork in the road. That's when things start to pivot. The defenders will fix the vulnerabilities. The attackers will try to exploit the vulnerabilities. And as we move forward, the very next week is the vulnerability identification phase. And then after that, we're going to talk exploitation. And I think the week after that is going to be post-exploitation. So follow me. You get all of the content in the courses and the material and all that stuff. And it'll be a lot of fun. But you cannot defend a network and you cannot attack a network if you don't know what's on it. So previously, we talked about passive recon and how to identify information on a target without someone knowing that you're there. Then we moved into Wireshark. Wireshark is in the middle of passive recon and active recon. And that's because although you technically aren't doing anything but listening, in order to listen, you need to be on the network. So it's kind of like me being in your kitchen, but I'm not saying anything. You know, clearly it's not passive, is what I'm trying to say. All right, so I am going to be using a couple of platforms today. I'm going to be using my Mac, which has Nmap installed, and then I'm going to use the attack machine that we have in the cloud to attack other platforms. And it's going to be fun. So I'm going to show you Nmap for my internal network. If you've seen portions of the lab that I had yesterday, now we're going to attack the lab. We're primarily going to focus on two operating systems, Metasploitable 2 and Metasploitable 3. We'll see what else we find, and we'll walk through that process. And then we will move on to the attack machine in the cloud and focus on two other environments. All right, so here goes. Let's move that. Let's remove this, and let's remove this. At any point, if you have any questions, comments, or anything, please, please, please add them to the chat. I do see them. I like to weave them into the conversation, so feel free. Here goes. Once you install Nmap, all you would need to do is type Nmap. Once you type Nmap, you'll get instructions, you get switches and usage for Nmap. I'm going to show you the things that you should focus on. I know this can be really confusing. You can also type Nmap-V to see the current version of Nmap that you're running. All right, my target scope, which is very important, is 10.1.10.0/24. That is my internal network that I'm going to attack right now. That's very, very important for you to know and for you to understand. You do not want to scan any IPs that are not in your scope. I got to repeat that. Please do not get yourself in trouble. Only scan networks that you are authorized to scan. If you do not know what your IP address is, and you definitely should know what your IP address is you go into your terminal, do an IP config or an IF config or an IP-A, find out what your IP address is, and not to make this a subnetting class because we'll get into that. You'll see what your subnet mask is as well. It's probably 255.255.255. I mean 255.255.0.0, which would make it a /16. Or you may see 255.255.255.0, which would make it a /24. So I'm going to use a /24 as my target, but then I'm going to do just an Nmap. And I want you to understand what Nmap does if you do not put any switches in. Nmap by itself is going to scan the top 1,000 most popular ports. But because I put a range in, it's going to scan the top 1,000 most popular ports for 252 machines, right? And if I hit enter right now, nothing's going to happen. Well, there's a lot happening, but you just can't see it because it's going to take time for it to finish this scan. The way Nmap works is Nmap will perform the scan, and then once it's completed the scan, it will display the results to the screen. There are workarounds for that by adding some switches so you can see the current status of your scan. I did not put any switches in here right now. So as you can see, it's taking its time. It's going to do the scan. And then when it finishes, it's going to paste the results to the screen. If I forget to put the switch in there, which is a -V, which will have it display the results to the screen, I can hit the spacebar. And if I hit the spacebar, then Nmap will tell me what the current status is, right? So it finished. And at the bottom, there's a little summary, 256 IPs, 5 hosts are up, and it even let me know how long it took. If you're using a tool like this, I need to reiterate that you are responsible for the packets that you put on the network. Again, you are responsible for the packets that you put on the network. So let's see what we found, right? We found a .1. We're not going to touch that. We found a .50. We're not going to touch that either. We found a 108, a 202, and we found 203. What we're going to do is we're going to stay in this range. We're going to do 10.1.10.200 to 254. But we're going to make some changes. We're going to add a -V. So remember earlier I said if you add a -V, it stands for verbosity. And basically what that does is Nmap will put the results on the screen as it performs the scan. You can do 1V, 2 Vs, 3 Vs. You can do up to 4 Vs. I normally just do 1, and I am going to hit enter. So out of that range, 200 to 254, we should only see 2 hosts, right? That would be the 202 and the 203 host. I know what they are. We don't know what they are. But you'll also see that this scan found, you'll see that the scan actually tried to find all of the hosts in that range, and it said the hosts are down aside from the ones that we found, right? So we found 202 and 203. You'll see that we also found a lot of ports, which means we essentially did the shotgun approach. I reiterated that the way Nmap works, if you just do Nmap without any switches, it's going to scan for the top 1,000 most popular ports. And you'll see that on this machine, 991 of them are filtered. And on this machine, 977 of them are filtered. So that means, so this is important, 23 of the top 1,000 most popular ports are open. It doesn't mean that only 23 ports are open, because in order to find that out, you need to do an all ports scan. And we aren't there yet. So I'm going to clear this. I'm going to hit this up arrow. And we're going to talk about other switches that are very important to you. Next, what we'll do is we'll add a dash, Nmap-v. I like to put the speed here. You can do a dash T1 for very slow, a dash T2 for slow, 3 is the normal, is the default speed. If you don't put any speed here, it will be a T3. T4, what I would normally do is fast, and T5 is insane. Literally, I think it's literally called insane. So we'll do a T4 here to speed things up. And we're going to do a dash SS. And this is going to be for the type of scan that you want to do. And there's a couple of options here. A dash SS is a stealth scan. A dash ST is a full TCP scan, and a dash SV is a service version scan. And I'm only going to stick with those 3 for now. You may also see a dash S capital C run a lot. That means Nmap is going to run some default scripts to find some initial vulnerabilities. We're not going to focus on that just yet. We're just going to do a dash S capital S for now. Also, since we know what one of our targets is, which is a .202 and .203, we're just going to focus on 202 right now as our target. So we're going to do a dash SS scan. The next switch I want to add is the way to scan for ports. And remember, we did the shotgun. You know what? Before that, I'll talk about one more switch that I add. That is a dash capital P little n. If you noticed before, Nmap showed the list of hosts from 200 to 254. So what Nmap will do is it will ping the host to see if it's up and running. If you get a response from the ping, then Nmap will finish with the switches that you put in your scan. This dash capital P little n tells Nmap not to ping and just assume the host is up. Remember, I said that you are responsible for all of the packets that you put on the network. It is your network, right? How do I say this? It's kind of safe to assume that the host is up, right? So you don't necessarily need to ping the host every single time, right? You're doing the Nmap scan. It's just extra packets, and especially if you're doing /16, /24s, if you're doing a bunch of networks, then you have pings out on the wire like for no reason, right? It's just depending on what you're doing, depending on how many hosts you're going after, removing a ping from every one of these targets for all of your scans is going to make things a little bit faster. Next, we'll talk about ports because we don't want to do the shotgun approach for the ports. You can do one port at a time. You can do one port separated by comma. You can do ports separated by a dash. You can do ports separated by a dash and a comma. Nmap is smart. And as long as you put Nmap first, it doesn't matter what order you put this switches in, Nmap is smart enough to figure it out. I just like to do it this way because I like to up arrow and immediately change my targets. And then that makes things a little bit faster. Question. I assume when doing an assessment at a client site, this would be a way for some sort of discretion if you don't want to cause alerts to go off. So the thing, you're going to be seen. Whether they react to you or not is two different things. Normally for the assessment, a client will give you a VPN configuration. They will add your IP to a watch list or a do not block list. And, clients do different things on the back end. What you may want to do just to ensure that you are safe is record all of your commands. If you're using Metasploit, there's a way to turn your spool on, and it will record everything. You may not want to do Wireshark. Some people do. They run Wireshark on the back end, but you'll fill hard drive space up really, really fast if you're running Wireshark. But yes, you don't want to cause a lot of strain to your client network. So you don't really want to do a T5 all the time. I normally stick to a T4 when doing the pen test engagements. And I almost always do the -pn. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. But typically, when it comes to causing alerts, the PN doesn't really stop much because it knows you're going to get flagged for the scan. Once you hit multiple ports, it's going to flag you. Another thing, a ping is how do I say it? A ping can be assumed as a prelude to an attack. So imagine someone coming to your house and knocking on your door. If they come in your house, if they come to the house, knock on the door, and leave, you'll probably let it go. When it comes to ports, adding multiple ports is like knocking on the other windows in your house. So knock on the door, check a window, anyone home, check another window, check another third window. By the time you knock on the third window, you're going to be like, all right, like this ain't normal. This ain't normal. Let me investigate. Front door, back door, kids, window, hell no, right? No one even supposed to know that window even exists because it's in the back of the house, right? You can't even see it from the street. And that happens. Sometimes you'll assign a certain port number to a certain service that only you know about. So that happens. All right. So now that we have this, another switch that I like to add is the --open. And I'm going to show you the importance of these switches. And I'm going to hit enter. Oh, I know what I did wrong. This requires me to use sudo. Oh. Bam. All right. So you'll see that I did ports 21 through 25 and port 80. And you can see that these ports are open. Does it help us? Yes. Can we find information that will help us a little bit more? Yes. So let's talk about it. And what we just saw was the SS scan. Spiff Teddy did mention alerts. And this scan that I used, if you look in the Nmap manual, you'll see that the -S, capital S, stands for stealth scan. It's not really stealthy. You're not going to be invisible when you are performing a Nmap scan. It's just, if you look at it in Wireshark, it's just the way that the packets are run. If you're familiar with the TCP handshake, you know that you have a SYN, a SYNAC, and a response. That's a full handshake. With the SS switch, it's just a SYN, and you're going to get a response. Basically, you're not sending the final acknowledgement because you already got a response. Back in the day, the tools would only detect the full TCP handshake. And because this is not a full TCP handshake, it would often go unnoticed back in the day. Nowadays, you're definitely going to see it, and that's why they call it a stealth scan, but it's not stealthy at all. It's just one less packet. And anytime you can do one less packet, the better off for you. And a lot faster the scans will return. But you'll see that we're also missing some important information. So I just wanted you to see that. So there's a couple of other things that I like to do with the scans, just so you can see it. When it comes to the ports, I mentioned that you can do a port separated by dashes, separated by commas. You can also do a top ports and a number. That number can be 10, it can be 3, it can be 100, it can be anything for the up to 65,535. No problem, Spiff Teddy. It can be, like I said, you have 65,535 options. So this number can actually be 65535. But that also means that that's an all port scan. So to do an all port scan, you can do -P1 through 65535, or you can do a -P-, and that means all of the ports. For now, we're going to focus on the top -ports 10. You can also do an exclude -ports and exclude ports that you want. But I normally never touch this because I know instead of excluding ports, I only put in the ports that I want. So I'm going to do a top ports 10 so you can see what that looks like. But let me stop that first. And I'm going to remove the -- open so you can see what that looks like. All right. So that came back really quick. You can see what the top 10 most popular ports are, which means you should probably know what these port numbers and services are and what they do. You can see that some of these, sorry about that, some of these ports are closed. And for what we're trying to do, we only care about the ones that are open, which is why I like to add the -- open in here. And you'll see that instead of getting 10 results, we're only going to get the ports that are open. So remember, I said you are responsible for all of the traffic and packets that you put on the network. So your goal is to be as clean as possible, like a sniper, right? You don't want to shotgun this. So we have the top 10 most popular ports, just the ones that are open on host 202. Let me clear my screen, and we're going to make some more changes. We're going to change this to a -ST, and you'll see that in the results, what you see is the same, right? A number of ports that are open, the state, and the service. The only difference is that if you were watching this in Wireshark, the difference between an SS, the stealth scan, and an ST, the full TCP scan, is that you would have sent back the acknowledgement. And these two scans look very different in Wireshark. But in Nmap, it's going to display the same information. Next, what we'll do is we're going to switch this from an ST to an S capital V and hit enter. The S capital V is what we want as attackers or as defenders, because it will now show us the service version that are running on these open ports. And now that you know the service version, that's when it starts to pivot. The attackers will both going to find vulnerabilities in these service versions, right? So you could literally go on the internet right now and say how to exploit VSF TPD 2.3.4. There's probably a bunch of tutorials, write-ups, all that stuff that will tell you how to exploit this. And if all of that stuff exists, then as a defender, you probably don't want this on your network. So you'll find alternatives to this service, or you will update it to the most recent version or secure version. As we move forward, we're going to talk about ExploitDB, which is a database on the web available to everyone in the world. I think there are up to 40,000 different exploits now. It's just a database of exploits and explanations on how to exploit specific services. We're going to get into it, but just so you know, the software for the exploits are written for specific versions. So the exploit will work for 2.3.4, but it may not work for 2.3.2, which is why it's very important to keep your software up to date, because people are always creating exploits to take advantage of that particular version of software. How are we feeling? For anyone that wants to follow along in Nmap, if you do not have a target, we can switch targets right now. I'll give you a couple of options for targets. One target is Nmap. Oh, not that. It's scammy.nmap.org. And I am going to go to scammy.nmap.org, right? Just so you can see. So scammy.nmap.org is a site that Nmap created that will allow you to scan. And it says they set up this machine to help learn about Nmap, to test and make sure that Nmap works. Try not to hammer on the server too hard. A few scans a day is fine, but not 100 times a day. So yes, you can scan it. Another target is Odapeeka.cover6solutions.com. It is a target that we put up in the cloud for you to scan. So I will put it in the chat. You can do scammy.nmap.org. Right? I'll show that. Or you can do Odapeeka.cover6solutions.com. And I'll show that. About the Odapeeka, for those of you who are taking the First Watch course, which is free, by the way, your traffic, your scans will show up in the Splunk and Security Onion logs. Really quick, I made this SOC lab, the Cover 6 First Watch, as a means for you to gain hands-on cybersecurity experience. You don't need to build the labs. I've already built it for you. You can use Odapeeka as your target. There is a little story behind Odapeeka as well. But it's for training purposes. You could literally watch yourself, try to scan, enumerate, and hack yourself, and then you can perform incident response on yourself. And I've given you the first week for free. All right. So with that being said, let's target both of those so we can see what it looks like. All right, so we're going to do the top 10 ports on scammy.nmap.org. You'll see DNS works. The IP address is 45.33.32.156. You'll see that it has OpenSSH 6.61 P1 available, and on the web page, they're running Apache HTTPD 2.4.7. So, as a defender, you would find vulnerabilities in those services and try to fix them. As an attacker, you'd find the vulnerabilities and try to exploit them. Now, let's see what's on Odapeeka. So we'll go to Odapeeka.cover6solutions.com. And out of the top 10 most popular ports, we're going to get the service versions for 3, 22, 80, and 443. So you'll see that it is running OpenSSH 8.9 P1 and Nginx on 80 and 443. For Nmap, that's really about it. There was a comment about alerts. If you are really, like I said, you're going to get detected. But if you really want to switch things up, you can do something like a 10.1.10.1/24. Another thing, once you put your CIDR notation in here, it doesn't matter what this last octet is. This last octet can be a 0, it can be a 3, it can be a 25. It knows to scan all the hosts in that range. But you can do things like slow it down and do a T2, right? And you can do something like a -- randomize hosts, right? You can do that if you wanted to. A couple of other things that you can do. Let's go back to this Odapeeka.cover6solutions.com. And instead of randomizing these hosts, we're going to make another change. What we'll do is we'll switch this back to a T4, and we're going to add a -S, which will run some default scripts. And we'll just change this. You know what? We'll be specific since we already know what ports are running. 22, 80, and 443. And we'll hit enter. Remember, I said we want to be like snipers here. And you'll see that the -S brought us back some more information on this device. All right, next is the fact that you can combine these switches. I'm not trying to confuse you. This might be the last one. You'll do an SVC, which is the service version, and run some scripts. So you're going to get back a little bit more information. And then I'm going to tell you about the UDP ports, and then we'll move to Metasploit. Right? So now, very similar information, but yes, you can combine the switches. So what we'll do this time is we'll do a --top. I'll show you a really good way to do the top UDP ports, because remember, you have TCP and UDP ports. Just remember that TCP is connect full and UDP is connectionless. So if you do an all ports scan on the UDP side and the scan does not finish, nobody cares, right? Because it is connectionless. So you got to be weary of how you're going to do these UDP ports. I normally do a specific port, or I will do a top 10. So now I'm going to do, matter of fact, let me, for educational purposes, I'm going to remove the -- open. Let me clear this. I'm going to remove the -- open just so you all can see what the top 10 most popular UDP ports are. All right. So don't forget about the UDP side. There's some very helpful UDP ports out there that you don't want to forget about. How are we feeling? All right. I am going to SSH. So that's our segue for Nmap. Any questions or comments on Nmap? All right, so I'm going to SSH into my Kali machine in the cloud. I am going to create a workspace. I'm going to create a workspace called I'll call this workspace Odapeeka. So I'll do a workspace Odapeeka, and you'll notice I'm trying to be discreet. Hey, Spiff Teddy, I see you. You said you have other questions. I can multitask. I just saw you join the Discord, so hit me up in Discord. I'll respond there too. So you'll see that I'm trying to be discreet here when I'm doing the workspaces, because I do have client engagements and I don't want you to see all of the workspaces. So I'm going to add a workspace for Odapeeka, and then I will also add a workspace called, I'll just call it scammy.nmap.org. So I'm going to switch back to the Odapeeka workspace. And the reason why I like this is because there's a ton of auxiliary modules that you can use in lieu of Nmap. It is a database and it will keep track of all of the findings. You just want to remember that as you are using this, you don't want your database to be filled with information you don't need. Therefore, you just ensure that you use the -- open all the time, or else you're going to have to delete the closed port information from your database. The way to get it to save, you can still run Nmap here, is that you can do a dbnmap -v -t4 -ss -pn -top ports 10 on odapeeka.cover6solutions.com -open, and I'll hit enter. So now that it's there, you can type in hosts, you can type in services. We don't have any creds yet. We don't have any loot yet. We don't have any vulns yet. Is ports one? I don't think ports is one. No. But basically, as you start to enumerate and find things, it's going to fill your database up with information. So as you can see, you can also do something like a services -p80, and it will list all of the hosts that you found that have port 80 open. So if I was to do a whole range of IPs or hundreds of thousands of hosts, it's just going to fill with information. We have a couple of options that we can use now that we have identified port 80. So remember, I told you want to sniper this thing out. So I'll just go over a few auxiliary modules in Metasploit. You can go and take a look at, there's a website, and I'll put it in the comments. It's called Metasploit Unleashed. And Metasploit Unleashed is a free course that explains to you how to use Metasploit. OffSec, it's done a good job. I've been with OffSec for years and years and years. They have taken, not taken, I'll just say it this way. I've spent a lot of money in the OffSec labs. Then I just started building my own stuff to help prep. So they have auxiliary modules in there. So we identified port 80. And we'll just use auxiliary. And I'm not being a Superman. I'm just hitting the tab button because it has an autocomplete function. So hit tab. And if I hit tab again, it's going to ask, do I want to display all of these possibilities? And I'm going to say no, because I know I want to use the scanner option. If I hit tab again, now it's down to 652 possibilities. I'm going to say no. I know the option I want is HTTP here because we found port 80. If I hit tab again, now we got 313 possibilities. If I say yes here, it's going to show all of the different possibilities. What up, Watchdog? I see you in the Discord. It's going to show all of the different possibilities here, and it's a lot of them. And you can go and take a look at them if you want. Or if you already know which one you want, I do. It's the HTTP version. So I want that. I'm going to hit clear here, and you'll see that my prompt changed to HTTP version. If I want to learn about this, I can type in info, and it will tell me a little bit about this module. You know, who wrote it, some of our options. Don't let this part get you confused, because there's some information that we have to fill in here. If you type in a show options, really the ones that you need to be concerned about are the ones that have a yes under the required. And we already have threads set to 1, which is fine for now since we're only targeting one host. Normally, I would do a 16 or 24 for my threads. It's basically the amount of, it says the amount of concurrent threads. So it's speed, but not really speed. So if you do 24, then it will essentially query 24 hosts at a time. But we're going to do one thread for now. We're just going to set our hosts, our target, to Odapeeka.cover6solutions.com. I'm going to show you another trick as well. So if we do show options again, you'll see that everything that's required is set. We have a target, we have our port, which is port 80, and we have our threads. And now I like to clear it and then hit run. And then now it's going to show the version of the port 80, which we already saw earlier from the Nmap scan, which was Nginx 1.18.0. So now if we do a services, it will look like this. Over time, your database is going to start to fill up. So you want to do a services-P80. And now it will only show the hosts that have port 80 open. It might get even crazier. So maybe you can do something like a services-P80, and then you can do a -S for the search function and do Nginx. And it will search your database just for that. This comes in handy for finding a specific service version out of the hundreds of thousands of services that you found. You know, we've had engagements where the number was really high and we needed to find all of the Windows 7 machines, right? So you can filter for that. The -S, capital S, helps you filter, or you can just type help at any point and you'll see some of the different things that you can do. Don't be afraid to type in help. You know, don't be afraid. So let's clear that out. And you can also create scripts. in here. They talk about it on the Metasploit Unleashed site. So essentially, we want our services to be filled with information, right? With information. So really quick, this is what it would look like in real speed to get the service version information for port 22. So we'll do this, use auxiliary scanner SSH underscore version. So another trick that you can do for adding a host is use the -R. And basically what it will do is it will go and identify all of the services in your database, all of the hosts that have port 22 open, and the -R will add them as a target. So that way you don't have to set your R hosts, because there will be times where you need to put in 100 or 1,000 different hosts, and you're not going to hand jam hundreds of IP addresses. So you just go find what you're looking for with your query and do a -R, and it will add them. So now if you do a show options, you see my R host is already set. Now if I run it, right, it's going to go and use the auxiliary module to find the service version information for that device. Now we look at the service version for port 22, and now we're getting information. And that's how you fill up your database using Metasploit. That is the quick and dirty. Like I said, you can script this, create some recon scripts, create some resource files, and it can get really, really fun. The scanning and enumeration is important. I primarily focus on Nmap and the Metasploit database. I like to use the database a lot. I like to export it into XML. What you can do once you get the results from the database, you can import the XML file, import your findings into Nessus, and Nessus will tell you what the vulnerabilities are and if it's exploitable or not, especially in the Pro version. So that's how you make that transition. In here as well, I showed you the vulns here, right? So it's letting me know that it did identify a vulnerability. I believe there's also an analyze button. And what the analyze option will do is the analyze option will find a matching exploit module in here. So that's that. How are we feeling? I did it in an hour too. Do we have any questions, comments about what I just showed you in Nmap or in Metasploit? Like I said, we just used a few auxiliary modules. But just so you know, there are auxiliary modules for credential harvesting. So I could have used an SSH scanner for usernames and passwords, right? And then done, matter of fact, I'll show you what that looks like. So SSH is open and available. So let's move on, right? Let's do a use auxiliary scanner SSH, right? There's an SSH underscore login module. I'm going to use that, and I'm going to change my, this is good exercise. I am targeting Odapeeka, so it's fine. Let's do a show options, and you'll see that the options here are much different. Again, don't let it get to you. Only look at the ones that are required and make sure that they have a setting. For the most part, it's already set, right? So we have, do we want to try anonymous login? Basically, anonymous, yes or no. For us, it's yes. We have our speed from 0 to 5, so it's going to be really fast. We haven't set our host yet. It already knows to do the report. The R port, which is 22. A thread is already set to 1. Stop on success. You can say yes. So again, we're trying to be as stealthy as we can, right? So what this means is that once you have successfully found a working set of credentials, you don't want to keep guessing, right? Because you've already found it. And once you find the creds will appear in your database. Do we want to set a username or a user pass file? Right now, we have it set to no. You can set a file of usernames and a file of passwords, or you can also use what's already in your database if you want. The verbosity means you want to print the results for all of the attempts. We can set it to true if you want it. So what we'll do right now is we'll just set the username to admin. We'll set the we'll set the password to admin. We'll do a services -p 22 -R. And just so you can see it now, we'll do a show options, and you'll see that the username is now set to admin. The password is now set to admin. The R host is now set to the Odapeeka IP address, and we'll hit run. And it didn't work. But cool thing is that if you register for the course, you're going to see this admin attempt in the logs. So this is your opportunity to go forth and conquer. If you want. Like I said, I created a lab environment for free. I will put the QR code for it if you want. Any questions or comments? Thank you. Good stuff. It does take practice. I've been on it. Trust me. You just gotta do it. Once you start, it will get easier and easier and easier. I've been at it, I don't know, 13, 14 years. I've even created a Pentester Prep course that is also coming back as well. And it's just second nature to me at this point. So you're welcome. One more question before I go. If you feel comfortable, let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. I'm in South Florida right now. So Spiff Teddy, Watchdog, I see you in the Discord. Hit me up anytime. It's always up. If you all need something like a study group or anything like that, let me know. Delaware, okay. That's what's up. All right. I think we had a good night. Practice. Take notes. Gaithersburg, I see you. In the description, there'll be a link to the student handout. There's a bunch of other handouts in there that you'll see, but the scanning and enumeration handout is in there, or will be in there. Is in there right now. All right. With that being said, I hope you all have learned something. Have a great night. Follow us on meetup.com or at cover6solutions.com. And I look forward to talking to you again next week when we discuss the very next steps, which would be the vulnerability identification and I think it's management, right? Vulnerability identification and management. All right. So you all have a good night and talk to you soon.